Well, let's go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining us for the virtual home energy fair. Some of you might know we had our first home energy fair last year in 2019. We brought all sorts of booths and we had different vendors talking about renewable energy, energy efficiency. That was the first year we did it and it was a lot of fun. We had some good stuff planned for this year, but of course with COVID, everyone had to change and adapt. And so that's what we did. We moved it online to a webinar series. This is the third day out of 3 days, so this is our last day. If you weren't able to watch the first two, we are going to have recordings available. One of them should be going on the website today, and the second one should be sometime this week. And then this one will be online as well. And make sure you visit our event landing page. If you just Google City of Irving Home Energy Fair, or if you just go on the city website, you'll be able to find it. That has all sorts of resources on it. We wanted to make the experience of seeing a bunch of vendors at once virtual. So we have YouTube videos, articles, online tools, all sorts of good stuff. So make sure you check that out. Once our presenters start speaking, I'll put a link to it in the chat. So today we're going to have two presentations and then at the end we'll have a Q&A. If you think of questions throughout the presentations, feel free to put them in the chat or you can wait till the end when I ask, okay, does anyone have any questions? And we'll be sure to get some of those answered. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into our topic today. It's tips and tricks for energy savings. So I'm very excited for our two speakers today. We have Brian Stewart. He's the Director of Renewables and Value at TXU. And we also have Terry Hall. He's a combination inspector here with the City of Irving. So we're very excited to have our speakers today. And we'll go ahead and get started with Mr. Hall.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a licensed plumbing and electrical inspector and a certified building and mechanical inspector. My entire career has been spent in the construction industry, focusing primarily on electrical systems. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about best practices for energy savings in your home. Let's start with one of the most common culprits of high electric bills, your heating and cooling system. There are usually two schools of thought in controlling the temperature in your home. The first is setting the temperature at a constant level throughout the day and night, even when you aren't home. The second is adjusting the temperature when you're away from home. So you should have their merits, and depending on your personal preference, either can work well in keeping your home comfortable. However, adjusting the thermostat constantly, even by a degree or two, causes your HVAC system to run inefficiently with frequent stops and starts. Think of it like your car's fuel efficiency. City driving uses more fuel than highway driving. To help maintain your home's temperature, it is worth the money to invest in a programmable or a smart thermostat. A programmable thermostat can be set to adjust the temperature for times you're away and times you're home. A smart thermostat knows when you're home and knows when you're away and will learn your preferred temperature settings. So once you have the temperature in your home regulated, let's look at some other ways to make your home more efficient. If you notice your heat or air conditioner is constantly running, or you can't get your home as cool or warm as you'd like, consider ways your home may be losing energy. Some things to consider. Windows and doors. Do they close properly? Are they seals intact and secure? HVACs should be checked at least once a month. The filter, when you see dirt on the filter, it should be changed. Don't forget to clean the grills inside your home because dust and other stuff can clog them up. HVAC maintenance. Have your inside and outside HVAC unit checked for optimum performance at least every 2 years by a licensed HVAC company. Also, ask to have your air ducts checked to confirm there is no breakdown in the insulation. No cuts in the ducts, and the ducts are sealed properly. Insulation. Do you have adequate insulation in your home? The other thing is ceiling fans. Ceiling fans can be adjusted speed-wise, and they can also change direction. During the summer, they should be drawing cool air off the floor and pulling it up to the ceiling during the ceiling. A couple of other items to consider for your home's overall efficiency. Your water heater. Water tanks. Water heater tanks should be drained at least once a year to clear out sediment and mineral buildup that can be on the bottom or on your heating elements. Traditional water heaters are inherently inefficient. They come on to heat the water and shut off when the water reaches a certain temperature. Then as the water cools, the heater comes back on to reheat the water again. This process continues constantly, whether the water is being used or not. Tankless water heaters, on the other hand, are a much more efficient option, as water is heating only when it is being used. Clothes dryer vents is another culprit. Make sure you clean the duct between your clothes dryer and outside vent at least once a year. For larger families, the duct should be cleaned more often. Not only does a clogged vent cause your dryer to run for longer periods of time, it is a fire hazard. If your home is more than 10 years old, it is probably worth having an energy consultant come in to inspect these items and make recommendations for improvements. There are a lot of ways to make your home more efficient. Don't think you have to do everything at once. Even small changes can have a big impact on your home's efficiency. And now I'll be happy to take any questions you may have.
Well, great. That was a lot of good information. When you were talking about ceiling fans, I instinctively looked up at mine and said, is that right? I'll have to take a look at that later. I didn't realize they could go both ways. Okay, great. So we're going to do the Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions for Terry, make sure you put them in the chat or the Q&A. And then at the end, we'll address all questions. But thank you, Terry. That was really good information. Okay, so next up we have Brian Stewart with TXU. I'm going to unshare my screen, and then Brian, if you want to go ahead and share yours.
All right. Okay, do you see it?
Yep, looks good.
All right, so we'll blow through these initial introductory slides real quick and get to the meat of it. And I'm glad we have Terry, the expert on the call today, because he can answer some of the tough home improvement and engineering questions that we reiterate some of the same points he made here. But I just wanted to share with you guys a little bit about kind of TXU and understanding your electric bill and some of the tips from easy to more involved that you guys could do at home to manage your own bill. And would like to talk about some of the things we do for our customers at the end of the first time. Right, so just quick on myself. I'm Brian Stewart. I've been with the company for 13 years. And our team handles renewables, so like home solar panels and things like that, renewables, and what we call value-added products. So it's basically things outside of basic electricity service that help you understand, manage, and reduce your energy usage. Because although we are an electricity provider, we like to help you use less of what we sell, because that makes the grid more balanced, and it makes you and your wallet more balanced, and then everybody's happy. So this is actually a key focus for our company. For those of you not aware, we are the largest retail electric provider in the state of Texas, have close to 2 million total customers in our family of companies. And we like to say we power Texas from right here in Irving. We're right off the George Bush Turnpike, and I've had the pleasure of working in Irving for the past 20 years. And it's really flown by. We are, despite being a century-old company, we try not to be too stale. We like to be very innovative with our investments and pushing the envelope in a couple of key places, namely in renewables, sustainability, and clean energy. Now, a lot of folks don't know that about us because we don't tend to advertise green energy things on TV, but we are one of the largest purchasers of clean energy in the state of Texas. We have one of the largest solar farms in the state of Texas, and we are now building the world's largest battery in the state of California. So we're pretty excited about some of these new leading edge technology and renewable initiatives that the company is pursuing. And right here at home, we are proud to say we planted 250,000 trees across Texas with our partnership with the Texas Tree Farm. And our corporate headquarters, we like to walk the talk. Our corporate headquarters is LEED certified, so we try to manage a clean and sustainable building. Yes.
I'm going to interrupt real quickly. Sorry. You're going in and out a little bit. Could you try maybe,
Let me just take the headset.
Yeah, try taking the headset out.
All right. Can you hear me now?
I think so. I'll let you know if it keeps doing it. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. I frequently have that on these Zoom calls, so sorry about that, guys. All right, so let's get into some of the understanding your electric bill part. This may be old news to you guys, but some of you may not have been exposed to this before. So the good and bad news. The good news is electricity is relatively cheap in Texas. We have plenty of fuel supply and a competitive market that helps drive the price down. So that's the good news. Some other states, energy is about twice what it costs per kilowatt hour here in Texas. The bad news is it's really hot. You guys probably knew that. And that heat, that hot climate and fighting and keeping that heat outside of your home is really the largest factor that impacts your electric bill. It's not, unless you were with Grady last year when they were charging you $100 a day, it's not typically your electricity provider. It's just fighting the heat and trying to keep that outside the home. And just to put that in relative perspective for you guys, homes in Texas use a lot of energy because think about it, in these summer months, your AC is working around the clock to keep you comfortable. And so some of the more northern and moderate climates use, for the same size home, they use a lot less electricity than we do because they're not fighting 110 degree heat all the time. So for example, a home in Ohio that has, you could have an electric vehicle, a pool, and a hot tub and still use the same or less energy than just a basic home in Texas without all those things, because our air conditioner usage is so much higher than a lot of these other more moderate climates. And so that's kind of the struggle we have in trying to help keep our families and our pets cool and comfortable and our electric bills manageable while fighting this Texas heat. So the major drivers of this are the home structure itself, the dwelling. And so you could have the technology has come along a long way. So a home of the same square footage built today versus one built 20 or 30 years ago is much more energy efficient. And that's just the advances in home efficiency design and appliances and other technologies. And so the home structure itself is one of the key drivers in how new and efficient and how tight the envelope is of the home. Energy hungry devices are a big driver. So your AC system is the biggest factor. If you have a pool, the pool pump running to circulate, and even if you have a heated pool, that's an energy hog too. So AC, pools, and then electric vehicles, believe it or not, are becoming more and more popular in Texas. And those are some of the largest energy using devices in the home. And then lastly is the lifestyle. So you could have 3 identical homes on the same cul-de-sac, and they could have very different electric bills because of how they're being used and the lifestyles of the people that are living there. So if you're young and single and you leave your home in the morning, you go to work all day and then hang out with your friends all night and then come home at bedtime, you're not there in the daytime. You're not using a lot of energy. Versus if you're an active family with kids and dogs running in and out and soccer and big meals, you're using energy very differently than that single neighbor. And if you're a retired couple who's always at home, you never leave the home to be able to turn the air conditioner back a little bit and save some of that money. So the lifestyle inside the home makes a big difference as well. And so the breakdown of a typical electricity bill here in the United States, the _1 factor, as I've said, is your air conditioning and heating is almost half of your electric bill. Water heating, as Terry said, is another 14–15%, because again, that tank is always keeping that water at a constant temperature, whether you're even there or not. Appliances come next. Lighting is not too bad. It's about 9 or 10%. And then TV and media. So this means you guys can have a big flat screen TV and watch it all the time because it's probably not driving that much electricity. So it really comes down to air conditioning and heating and trying to keep your home at a comfortable temperature. And again, this is a US national average. Texas tends to be a little bit higher on the AC piece because we use ours a lot more than some of the other states. And so you cannot control the weather yet, but what can you control, right? So I wanted to share a few tips with you and kind of reminding some of the things that Terry brought up earlier. So this is from our website. It's txu.com/appliances. So we try to put some helpful, easy to understand content out there because we get a lot of questions, especially in the summertime, we get a ton of calls about high bills because your AC is running around the clock. What can I do to manage my bill? What am I doing that I'm not supposed to be doing? Or what are my neighbors doing to have lower bills than I do? And so we've got some of this, this helpful infographic and helpful tips on the site. So you can see here, kind of like I said on the prior slides, we've kind of ranked which devices are causing you the most energy consumption in your home. You can see right here in the middle, the AC trying to keep your home heated or cooled is the biggest culprit. Next is the water heater. And then we kind of show you in kind of a ranked order which appliances tend to be some of the more energy hungry devices in the home. And so I want to go through a few tips here since, as I said, a lot of people always reach out, what can I do? My bill is too high. How can I lower this? And so there's a whole spectrum of things you can do. We'll start with the simple, easy, and cheap or free things that you can do. So this is kind of the DIY list. Then we'll get into some of the more involved home improvement projects that might be harder for some of you guys to tackle. So when it's hot out, if you raise your thermostat by just 3 or 4 degrees, you can use up to 20% less energy. So if you tend to set yours on 74 or 75, try say 76, 7 or so. So every degree or two that you can stand will make a difference in your electric bill. I know some folks who set theirs down to 68 or 70 degrees, and when I go visit them, it's kind of chilly in their house, but that's what they like, and that's fine. But you're going to pay for it because you're going to have a much higher bill than somebody that can stand to set theirs at 75 to 76 or 7. And as Terry said, when you do set your thermostat up a couple of degrees, you can offset that impact and still feel comfortable if you run your ceiling fans, because they use less energy and it circulates the air and helps cool you without having to chill the air as much. And it's a lot more efficient, a lot more energy efficient. In the wintertime, when it's cold out, dial back or lower your temperature setting by 3 or 4 degrees, and that will help you again save energy, up to 15% less energy, and help manage those bills. Because we tend to think about summer heat in Texas, but a lot of our customers, their second highest bill comes in that January, February timeframe when it's really cold outside. And so that managing your comfort level and your thermostat as efficiently as possible will help you save a lot of money during those months too. So as Terry said, you can set a reminder to clean or replace your AC filter every 2 or 3 months. This is one that I'm kind of bad at, so I put a reminder on my calendar to remind me. It does help your system run more efficiently and keeps kind of the dust and clogs out and lets it run at the right pressure too. And it's not fighting against a dirty filter to suck air into the system. So that's one that's really, really easy to do. What I do is I buy a few filters in advance, stack them up in the garage, and I just set a reminder for myself every 3 months to know to go and replace those things. Get regular AC tune-ups to keep your system running efficiently. You'd be surprised how much energy you could save and money you could save by having a properly running system. You can save up to 20 or 30% on your summer energy bills, because again, the biggest driver of your electric bill is trying to keep your home cool and comfortable and fighting against that Texas heat. So an inefficient system is kind of like a car that's burning oil and has bad spark plugs and not got the fuel and gas and air mixture properly running. It's an inefficient car, so your fuel mileage, your miles per gallon, is going to be a lot less efficient than a brand new, properly tuned engine. So here's another one that people don't tend to think about next here is turn your water heater down to 120 degrees. Some folks have theirs set a little bit higher, and again, as Terry mentioned, you're going to be keeping that water constantly overheated whether you're taking a shower or washing dishes or not. And so dialing it back to 120 degrees is a bit more efficient than having it set at a higher temperature. Here's another easy one next, is using LED bulbs. If you switch out from the old-fashioned incandescent bulbs to LED bulbs, they're a little bit more expensive, but they last much longer and they use a lot less energy. You'll notice like it'll say like 6 or 7 watt LED bulb is equivalent to a 75 watt old-fashioned bulb. So they do use a lot less energy. And then you can seal drafty windows and cracks with caulk and other sealants to make sure that you're not letting that cool air leak out your home and letting the hot air in, because you want to keep that envelope of the home tight and efficient Because if you're paying to cool your space, you want to keep that inside and not spread to the plants outside, right? So those are a quick rundown of some of the DIY kind of do-it-yourself energy savings tips you guys can do at home. They're on our website at txu.com/tips. And the other page was txu.com/appliances. So just some helpful knowledge there. Now, next we'll get into some of the bigger ticket items that cost a little bit more money, but may, depending on your home situation and the home structure, may end up paying off, because in older homes especially, some of these upgrades and appliance replacements could pay for themselves over time in the energy savings that you get. So if you have an old central heating and AC system that's kind of on its last legs, basically if your AC system could have grown up and gone to college by now, you might need to think about a new one, because chances are you can have a much more comfortable home and definitely a much more energy efficient home. And that new AC system could pay for itself in a year or two in those lower electric bills. If you have old single pane windows, those don't do as near a good a job as keeping the heat out of your home in the summer times, or keeping the heat inside your home in the winter times. So you hear a lot of these ads about window replacements. In some cases, if you find a good reputable company, those you can get a decent deal, and they will pay for themselves over time in the energy savings. So that's another good one. Replacing your old water heater with a tankless unit. I think Terry mentioned this one too. That's a lot more efficient, because you're not keeping hundreds of gallons of water heated all the time when you don't need it. It heats on demand, so you're only using that energy when you need to use that hot water. So that's another efficient upgrade you can make. If you have a pool, upgrading to a more efficient pool pump that runs on a timer, not just constantly, can help you save money as well, because pools are one of the other big energy hogs in Texas homes. You may not have proper attic insulation in your home, so making sure you get that checked out and have the proper amount of insulation in your attic can keep a lot of that heat that comes down from the sun from beating into your home from the roof. And even look at radiant barrier decking that could help, again, reflect and keep some of that heat out, because heating the home from the outside is what you're fighting against with your AC running all the time to keep that out. And lastly, just a simple shameless plug for one of our programs at TXU. I know you guys had a session earlier in the week on rooftop solar panels. That's a big area of interest for our company as well. That is, it's one of the bigger ticket items, but you can install rooftop solar panel systems for $0 down and produce a lot of your own energy at home, so you're paying less to buy it from the grid. And so we see that becoming more and more popular here in Texas. And even in this year of COVID-19, we're seeing 2020 is the biggest year, record-setting year ever for new rooftop solar installations in the state of Texas. And I've got a couple of illustrations to close out here with, just to highlight why that does make such an impact. So if you look at the chart on the slide here, this is the typical home energy usage by hour of the day, the typical home in Texas. So you can see that in the morning time, it starts to peak up, say at around 6, 7, 8 a.m. When most people are starting to wake up from sleep, cook breakfast, get ready for work. And then again in the evening time, as people return from work, get active for dinner and homework and whatnot, you're fighting against, you've got the busy lifestyle and trying to cool your AC a little bit when you return home from work, and fighting against the peak heat of the Texas afternoons. And so this is what the typical energy usage pattern looks like for a home by hour in the state of Texas. Now, if you were to install solar panels on that same home, all of a sudden, that daytime energy usage disappears. You see the trough kind of here in the chart. So this is because as the sun comes out, you see the curve kind of go down. The panels start producing energy from that sunlight. It peaks kind of in the midday hour when the sun is directly overhead. And as the sun goes down, you see the output of the solar panels disappear. And so you're avoiding buying energy from the grid when the grid is the most strained and energy is the most expensive. And so we see a lot of folks have a pretty attractive payback on their investment with rooftop solar panels. And we tend to find that people like, especially in Texas, people like energy independence. And this kind of helps, especially if you pair that with your own home battery system. So that's, I think, the end of what I've got, Emily.
Great, thank you. That was a very informative presentation. Lots of good info in there. Okay, so with our second presentation, that brings us to our Q&A. We do have a few questions ready. If the audience has any more, please put them in the chat in the Q&A. You know, you have the experts here with you. Take advantage of them while you can. So one of our questions comes from Sandy. She says, is there a checklist you can provide? And I'm gonna quick answer first. We do on that website, I linked in the chat, the Home Energy Fair landing page. The city made a tri-fold brochure that's the DIY home energy audit. So on there is a checklist of some quick things you can do to kind of audit your home and see how much energy you're using. So check that out. I'm gonna let, if the speakers have any other checklist resources they wanna provide.
Yeah, I think the one I mentioned, we have txu.com/tips and txu.com/appliances. You'll probably, or you can do your own Google search. You'll probably see in the brochure Emily mentioned or on our website. A lot of the tips tend to be the same because there's really only so much you can do, but they are, as I mentioned earlier, and Terry mentioned a few. A lot of these are pretty simple kind of tactics you guys can all do. I grew up in the were you raised in a barn kind of generation when you would leave the lights on and get kind of yelled at by your dad. And there are a lot of simple tricks that you guys can all do at home, changing lighting and filters and things. So you'll find those on the website that I mentioned.
Great, cool. So we have some other questions. Here's one. This person has been told that space heaters in the winter can take up a lot of energy and aren't really worth it. Is that true? I know I've seen before, it was something online where they said you should use a heated blanket instead of a space heater. Do you guys know anything about that, or have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, Terry may want to chime in here, but I do know that the plug-in space heaters they are considered an energy hog, because we have folks at the office who get kind of chill, they're kind of cold-blooded, and they'll install those, they'll plug in one under their desk, which you're not really supposed to do because I think it's a fire hazard, and they draw a lot of energy. So they're not the most efficient thing you can do, but I understand people are trying to fight, you know, the cold weather and the chills too.
Okay, my computer freaked out for a second. Okay, they also asked a question that they live in an apartment complex, and can their neighbors affect their energy costs, and if so, by how much?
I thought Terry might be chiming in here, but I have not heard of a situation where that's been studied that your apartment neighbors can affect you. They can certainly affect your sleep patterns if they're noisy and stomp on the floor a lot, but especially in modern apartments, they're designed to be pretty energy efficient. And so your upstairs or downstairs neighbor keeping their home 4 or 5 degrees difference than the temperature you keep should not affect your energy usage.
Okay, great. And I think I see Terry agreeing with you. Okay. I know I live on the 3rd floor of an apartment, and well, maybe my neighbors don't affect the energy usage. It definitely gets very hot because I have a lot of windows. And so I've definitely been paying attention to all the things you guys are saying. Even though I can't change out certain things, there's definitely some things you can do in an apartment. So, okay, we have a few more questions. One I'd like to aim at Brian. Are there examples of TXU Energy helping customers save energy and money? Like, do you have programs and things that you can talk about?
Yeah, sure. There's a couple that come to mind that are the most popular here lately. So one of the things we do is offer, one of the things Terry mentioned is programmable thermostats. So we have a program we've run for several years where we offer a smart programmable thermostat so you can remotely control your air conditioner usage. And especially if you leave home and forgot you set it at 71 degrees, you can adjust it from home and save some of that energy. There's even features nowadays where the app on your phone can sense that you're getting close to the home, like returning home from work, and it will turn on and start to cool the home down to the comfortable temperature that you like to keep it at. So smart programmable thermostats, we have a number of ways, a number of programs that provide that. The latest and more fun one that we've been doing lately is offering people, as I mentioned, getting your air conditioner tuned up and running as efficiently as possible is one of the biggest things you can do to lower and manage your energy usage. So we've been offering free air conditioner tune-ups to a lot of TXU customers here in the state of Texas this last few months. Just something new we're trying to see if we can help people make a dent in their electric bill, make them more happy, and take some of the strain off the grid. So if you got one of those emails from us offering a free tune-up, no, it wasn't a joke, no, it wasn't a scam, go ahead and read and click through and schedule your appointment. Because what we try to do is it's a new program we're piloting to see how will people react to it. Do they like these kind of things? Will they follow through on it? Will they take action? And so we kind of track the customer satisfaction and that program performance. We use the data from your smart meter, not Big Brother style, because we don't look at names. We just look at meter numbers and addresses and figure out, you can tell from that smart meter data which homes have an overworked and tired air conditioner and one that's not running well. And so we send emails out to those folks saying, hey, would you like to have some expert come out and do a free tune-up to get it running in the best possible condition? So that's some of the things we've been doing lately and seeing some really good results with.
Very cool. Those sound like really good programs and something to take advantage of for sure. Okay, let's see. We have a couple more questions. One from Juanita. She says, I have never had my water heater drained. What type of service would provide that, or how do you go about getting your water heater drained?
The number one thing would be call a licensed plumbing company. They can come in and check your water heater, make sure it is, even though it may be a tanked water heater, it can still be cleaned and drained and checked to make sure it is running more efficient. But you want to make sure that.
Right. Okay, great. And then another question for you, Terry, because you talked about it. She says, I don't know ceiling fans are standard, but making sure that ceiling fans pull air up, is that clockwise or counterclockwise? So she's saying which direction pulls it up and which direction pulls it down.
Usually counterclockwise. The blades are canted kind of at an angle, and you want to make sure that wherever they're spinning, that it's going counterclockwise during this time of year, during the summer, the heat of the year, and pulling that cool air off the floor up into where you're usually at. So counterclockwise is for the summer.
Okay, great. Okay, and then she has another question. Does weather affect solar panel efficiency? So that's more aimed at Brian, I believe. So if it's raining, if it's cloudy, how does that affect your solar panels?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, it does. I think they're considered most efficient in bright, clear skies, like sunny days that aren't super hot. Because when the panels get overheated, they still work great, but they become, I guess technically math-wise, they become a little bit less efficient. So your panels will still work in cloudy skies and rainy weather. They'll just be a little bit impaired, so they'll make a little bit less energy. But they only stop working when the sun goes down, and that photovoltaic energy is not being captured, right? So we don't have to worry about, the biggest culprits are dust buildup and snow piling up. That's not really a problem in Texas because they might collect a little bit of dust, but we get enough rain that it rinses it off, so you don't have to maintain them. We don't really ever get snow, and not that much, so they're not going to be impaired by that either. So we live in one of the best states for solar energy because we have a really long, warm and sunny season. And so that's why we see a lot of folks installing those across the state now.
Very cool. And I'll also say, for those of you asking solar questions, we have another solar question coming up, by the way. Our Tuesday panel was all about renewable energy. So like I said, that recording will be on the website soon. It had to get platformed to put on YouTube first, and then it will go on the website. But make sure you check that out because they had a lot of good Q&As about solar, kind of get into the nitty gritty of what people are always asking about solar. So make sure you check that out, those of you that are asking solar questions. But speaking of solar, Sandy asked, for solar panels, do we typically go through the energy company? She wants to make sure she gets a reputable company. So I think what she's asking is, do you go to your electricity provider like TXU, or do you go to like an independent solar company? What's the typical process for that?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have a program with the largest and leading solar installer in the country, Sunrun, the biggest national installer. And we carefully vet the people we work with, just like you would for your own home. We want to be sure that if we're going to recommend a company to somebody that they're legit. So you can get a free quote through our program at txu.com/solar. Outside of that, you'll see people at Home Depot sometimes offering solar panels. There will be a lot of guys coming around door to door trying to sell solar panels. So the best advice I can give you is just do your research and look up reviews and ratings and Better Business Bureau kind of things to make sure that the folks you talk to are good to deal with. Oh, I think you're on mute.
You're right. Sorry. I was going to say we have one more question on solar. We're getting a lot of solar questions. So now I know for next year, maybe we have more than one panel on renewable, because that's what everyone wants to know about. But she asked, is there any maintenance required on solar panels? So after you install it, how often do you have to maintain it? That sort of thing. That's a good question too. We get that one a lot. Also, before, if you have a question in the chat, we get asked about hail and other things. So I'll address that in a second, but there's typically no maintenance on a solar panel system. That's why they're a great investment in Texas. Once you build a solar farm or install them on your roof, unless some technical issue happens, there's typically no maintenance. Like I said, you don't have to clean them because we have enough rain that would rinse off any dust buildup. And most often, I think the best news is when you finance or lease the panels you typically buy them in a 20-year lease. The company that installed them and then owns and operates them is responsible for maintaining them and keeping them at optimal efficiency. So that's another reason to buy with a reputable company that's going to be around a while, and to sign up under a lease if you want someone else to take care of any maintenance that might come up. But there's typically not maintenance involved. Now for the hail question, in case some of you are wondering, these things are made to be put on the roof and to be outside. Now, if we had a catastrophic hailstorm, yes, they might be damaged, but you're gonna have a lot of other problems to worry about in that situation. But these things are outdoor rated. Before they are released for sale and put on your roof, they test them. I would like this job. They test them by firing baseballs at the panels at 50, 60, and 100 miles an hour to make sure they can withstand that kind of outdoor environment. So they are made to be outdoors on your roof. Very cool. That does sound like a fun job. You're right. So another question, you talked about how TXU utilizes solar energy. Juanita is asking if you utilize wind farms or any wind energy. Yes. You guys may not know this, but Texas is the largest producer of wind energy in the entire country. So we've got California beat by a mile. If you've ever been driving out in the central Texas or hill country, you'll see a lot of these giant wind farms. And that is because there's maps that show like the wind currents across the state. And that's why they build them out west, because there's not a lot of buildings or other geographic things to disturb the wind flow. And so you see a lot of wind farms across the state of Texas. And we are one of, if not the largest purchaser of that wind energy that is produced here in Texas. And we offer wind and solar energy to our customers in a number of different flavors. You can sign up on something like, we have a service plan called Free Nights and Solar Days. So your daytime energy is bought from the large solar farms in Texas, and your nighttime energy is bought from the wind farms in Texas. So all of your usage is 100% renewable from wind and solar farms right here in Texas. And the best part about that plan is the energy at night is free. So from around 9 p.m. or so until 5 or 6 a.m., your energy usage is free and renewable. So it's one of the better ways to get access to green energy in Texas. Very cool. Thank you. So I have a few more questions for you two. Are there any energy efficiency projects or upgrades or anything like that that you wouldn't recommend? So is there anything that people tend to do that actually doesn't help that much or anything like that?
I'll throw something out. I would like to hear Terry's thoughts on this because you've probably seen a lot of bad advice given to people by shady salesmen, but I wouldn't not recommend certain things. I think it's more about prioritizing which ones you attack first. So what I thought was funny about the where you raised in a barn, turn the lights off kind of thing is that your lights, as I showed in a slide earlier, are not the largest energy user in your home. It's the AC. So it would just be funny to me to focus on turning the lights off in rooms you're not using and set your air conditioner at 68 and have the windows and doors open, you know. So I would just focus on being efficient with your AC as much as possible, in addition to worrying about turning off and replacing lights.
One thing I have to add on that is with the AC being the largest energy hog, as you put it, Brian, when you have somebody come and check your AC and they tell you it needs to be replaced, make sure you get a second opinion. Don't just take their word for it, because a lot of times people are changing out a unit that's only a few years old and all it really needs is a good maintenance. So make sure you get that second opinion from.
Yeah, I would second that. That's a good one. Any of these big ticket items, you probably want a second opinion on too.
Very true. And I will say during our renewable panel 2 days ago, that's something they said when you're looking for, if you're going to go with the solar company, they said the same thing. Make sure it's a reputable company and do a lot of research as to what they're doing. Know your own home, so you can trust your own instincts as well. So very good points. Let's see. So if you could only do one project or one upgrade or whatever in your home, what would you recommend being the number one thing you should do?
I would say, because I need to do this myself, I'm overdue for an air conditioner tune-up, and my system is 11 years old. So it's kind of at the end of its life curve, because these things last 10, maybe 15 years. And so mine is overdue for a tune-up, and that would help save me some energy usage.
I agree with that. ACs are the number one killer, so always have it tuned up. Make sure that the company is a reputable company when they come out. And water heaters are another one. Just make sure that whenever they come out, they do a good job. Research these companies before you just say, okay, come in and do it. So.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention that I forgot the website. I've been rattling off too many web addresses. If it's hard for people to know who to trust and how to find somebody to come out, we have a program where with this certain rate plan, it includes 2 free AC maintenance visits a year. So you can get it tuned up for the winter season and the cooling summer season. So it has a certified technician will come out twice a year for this rate plan and tune up your system. So I think I need to probably get on that one so that they'll call me to come out instead of me forgetting and procrastinating. And now I'm kind of behind schedule on my tune-ups.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And so for the audience, make sure you're putting your questions in the chat. Oh, this is an interesting one, and it might be too recent for you to know, but I'd like to get your opinions on it, if you've heard anything. So someone asked, with more people working from home and schooling from home and all of that during COVID-19, have you seen this affecting energy bills and consumption? Is it a big difference from what it would normally be? Have you guys heard anything about that?
Yes, we actually, that was one of the things we were concerned about, because we have large business, small mom and pop business, and residential homeowner customers at TXU. And we knew that this pandemic, this crisis, was going to impact each of these audiences differently. And so what we've seen is on the business side, a lot of large companies and small businesses, independent businesses, have been pretty severely impacted, as you guys know. Some have dialed back a lot in what they're doing, so their businesses have slowed down. Some have shut down altogether. So when you look at the energy usage patterns, business usage is down these last few months because of those factors. Because even if your business is still running, a lot of folks are working at home. So the office complex, the business place itself, is using less energy. Or if it's a manufacturing plant, for example, the economy slowed down means they're producing less and working less, right? So businesses have been using less energy the last few months. Whereas on the residential side, home energy usage is up this year because a lot of people are unfortunately out of work, or a lot of folks are working from home. I've been working at home since mid-March because they closed down our office to keep everybody safe and not spread the disease. So energy usage was up 5 or 10% across the state in the early months, and business usage was down about 5 or 10%. So yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I know when I started working from home, it seemed like the internet got a lot slower. I don't know if it actually did, but it definitely seemed like that. So very good. So if anyone has any other questions, please put them in the chat. I think that's all the questions I see right now. But I also just want to say thank you to everyone for coming to the virtual home energy fair and supporting. If you have any questions or comments, or if you think of a question later, please reach out to me. If you have any ideas of how we could improve for next year, please let me know. We're always willing to grow in different ways. So yeah, do either of our panelists have any closing thoughts they'd like to give? I know we're a little early, so like I said, if anyone has any more questions, please put them in the chat. So, but do you guys have any closing thoughts or comments?
I was just going to say thank you, Emily, and the City of Irving for putting this on and trying to help people be more sustainable and manage their energy usage. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you guys today.
And thanks everyone that participated and asked those wonderful questions. It's always good to be able to answer them.
Great. Yes, and thank you so much for our speakers today. I really appreciate it. You know, this is kind of a different format than what we normally do. So I really appreciate your insight and your expertise. So like I mentioned before, this recording will be available. So if you want to share it with anyone, feel free to. It'll probably be on the website either this week or next week. Like I said, please go to that link I put in the chat. There's a lot of resources. There's YouTube videos. There's a whole, playlist from the Department of Energy, kind of an introduction to home energy. That's really good. I definitely recommend it. There's different tools, all sorts of good stuff. So with that, please reach out to me anytime if you have any questions about renewable energy or anything like that. But thank you everyone for joining us. We're getting off a little early, so you can go have your lunch a little early. And everyone stay safe and healthy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank